Welcome in everybody to part 4 of Athletes of Faith. Today's a special one. Each one we have done something different. We've had twos, we've had fours, we've had mix of gender, but today we actually have two from the same school, which will be the first time. I'm really excited because when you look at what Mississippi State does, they are very good with their FCA program, their athletes, a lot of amazing character. And so with that, we'll start with you, Amani. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Hannah, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing awesome. So, first thing right off the top, I wanted to share why I reached out to both of you. Amani, obviously huge into covering baseball, and I don't think, and I know, glory to God, it's not about you, but I still have to give you, your due because when it comes to reading the word and sharing to your teammates, I've never heard more compliments coming from any baseball team than I have from yours. I know how you pray and encourage others. I've known that you've dove in the word with others, and so you were somebody that I had to get on. And then, Hannah, for you, you know, in today's society, right? And I've tried to think of how I wanted to say this because I don't want to offend any previous guests, but there's no way to really sugarcoat it. A lot of the female athletes that we have on, don't mind showing themselves a little more than I would feel comfortable with as somebody with a daughter. And I love how you use your platform and you do it, with elegance, and you do it as a representation of God. And so that's just, the reason why I would love to have you on here, on top of just, everything you've done for your university and now that you've moved on into your new career. But with that, Mani, I'm going to start with you. Just real quick, talk about how, God became such a big part of your life.
Yeah, so as a child, I was always raised in church. Always went to church with my parents and grandmother, and and I think it really became. I took it to another level. Actually, and it came from in junior college. I had a couple friends, couple teammates, and they pushed me towards it more. And I was okay. Maybe this is something I really like want to dive into. And then I went to New Orleans, and it got bigger. We started an FCA group down there in New Orleans, and that became a big thing. A lot of the athletes started going to that. And then when I went to Mississippi State, it just kind of like it surprised me the most by like because at East Central, I don't tell a lot of people this, like taking a knee before the game, praying in the outfield or whatever. Like I would always like think like what people think about me if I did that and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know that's not right, but I mean it's just something that we deal with early, early on. And when I got to UNO and Mississippi State, the more people I got to be around and just watching who I surround myself with, it pushed me more to like be able to do that like freely and. Um, it helped me having those guys that were bold on the team with their faith as well, that weren't afraid to share their faith stories and um, not afraid to take a knee in front of 12, 15,000 people. So I think them just being around me made me more bold in my faith, and then it led me to getting baptized this past November. So
Yeah, and we'll dive into the whole time at Mississippi State, but just to touch on the one thing about, being bold and taking a knee, it's crazy that in this society and the way it's formed, that's a bold statement, right? Like, my pastor has talked about it for years about just what the norm is, right? And that should be the norm. That shouldn't be something that when somebody does, it's, abnormal. And I don't know, it's what we got to do to get right. But I know that what I'm seeing at Mississippi State, and like I said, we'll dive into it, making great strides. I'm seeing athletes, like I said, a part of the FCA that aren't just showing up to wear that badge of honor, right? Saying they're going, but they're actively out in the community, on the fields, on the courts, whatever. Displaying that faith just like you were. But Hannah, for you, how did Jesus become such a big part of your life?
Yeah, very similar to Amani. I grew up in the church. I had parents that had us there every Sunday in Sunday school. They led Sunday school for us. They were just great leaders for me and my brother just my entire life. And then kind of fast forward on, I went to a small private school, but it was just like a non-denominational school. So we didn't even get FCA until like later middle school years, 7th and 8th grade for me. So myself, especially my parents too, were a big part of like bringing that to our school. And we met every Wednesday morning before school, and people would get up and share their testimonies and just like speak the word and like how we can take that into school each and every day. And so that allowed me to be like an FCA leader in high school. So that kind of really showed me like, oh, this is like my faith journey. And like, I've not just like been in church because like my family went on Sundays, like this is my journey and this is my path. And so continue that on through high school. And then leading into college, I think college is a big testament to, you know, whether you're a college athlete or you're just, you know, going to college. It's your first time away from home. It's your first time living away from your family. And so it's kind of on you to get up and to go to church and to find what church you want to get involved in and to get involved in all the different groups on campus. Like that's on you. And so I think it's my faith grew even more in college because it was, you know, me, myself, and I, and just kind of navigating what my faith looked like and how I could preach the gospel like each and every single day.
Yeah, of all the guests, I think only, you know, you and Katie Hill so far were um, said they were real strong in their faith already in high school. And the reason I bring that up is, you know, a lot of the athletes have came on and said they had to figure out that their identity wasn't just an athlete. And because you mentioned that, going in already knowing that you're so much more than that, right? Because when you are on the stage that y'all are, you know, you get caught up thinking that that is what you truly are. That's the number one thing you are, when absolutely it's not. You're a child of God. So, you know, when you got there, it sounds like you already had an idea of, you know, who you truly were, and you were never going to let cheering, dancing, or anything else in between define you as something different.
Right.
All
Absolutely.
right. So Amani, you know, baseball, right? Like, so the best way I can think to explain it, because you were talking about not being ashamed, is I was in high school and played sports. I didn't make it to the college level like you, but I remember going to church on Sunday. I remember doing all the right things. And then you could catch me in the locker room acting a completely different way Monday through Friday because you wanted to fit in. So, how do you balance when you're an athlete of a big team like that, and you know you want to fit in, you want to make sure you're part of the guys, but you know, and obviously if you have a lot of guys who are Christ followers as well, it's easier to blend in. But if you got guys who aren't, how do you make it to where you can adjust and you can maintain your integrity and maintain who you are and still get those friendships?
Yeah, so I think it's more of just like I said, who you surround yourself with. Because I mean, we're all not perfect, and we're nowhere near it. And so it's good to have great people around you. Like for instance, for me, I had the David Mershons, the Aaron Downs, and Joe Powell's. Like they were all there, and like if we weren't doing something we were supposed to be doing. I mean, we check each other. Like we weren't afraid to. And I know we started a little Bible study group or whatever, and Mershon was leader of it. And we had like three things we'd work on, and one of them was let's not talk about the weather. Like let's not say the weather's bad, or because it was always raining on game days, because that's what we started doing. And so every time somebody said, "Man, this weather is," and then like Mersh or me would look at like whether it was Nate Chester, we'd look at him and be like, he said, "This weather's great," and I think it's just like that, like just keeping each other in check.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, one of the things that we're called to do, and because you talk about surrounding yourself, is you to obviously share the word. And I love the picture of you and I believe it was Dakota Jordan, where you have the Bible, and something that I've seen you actively do. You know, praying over others and everything. So talk about understanding your role, that knowing that it's not just about you, but it's obviously about others, specifically in that locker room, as a teammate, for you to share, you know, who Christ is.
Yeah, I mean that was my goal. It's like I mean not to be. It's always my bad. It's obviously to be one of the better baseball players, but also I got to continue to grow my faith in Christ as well. And like that picture you said, I think that was maybe in Florida on Easter. I think that's what it was. And Dakota just walked by and said, "Hey, what you got for me today?" And I just told him what I was reading that day, and it was awesome that I don't know who got that picture, but that was pretty cool. And it was multiple days where there was just guys, like I said, Aaron Downs, Mersh, they come sit by me and say, "What you got today?" And it started with I'm not even the first person who started that on the team. It was I see Joe Powell and David Mershon do that stuff, and Aaron. Wherever, whether it was in the Templeton eating lunch or whether it was in the locker room before a game, and I was just like, you know what, let's just take this to the field now, and we just wanted to bring back Mississippi State baseball to the standard is how it's supposed to be played, and I remember we go out there a lot of nights, not with each other, but we go out there and pray every position, pray over the best for each position, a healthy season, and just trying to be the best we can.
Y'all must have said extra prayers when y'all played my LSU boys. That's what happened. See
Yeah.
it now. I see it now. But Hannah, for you, it's really expounded because we talked about it on your episode. Football games, basketball games, baseball games. You were doing campus tours. You're everywhere. So you're someone who, when it comes to your image, if you want to display and imitate, the image of God, you basically can't go anywhere where you don't have eyes on you. So talking about that life and understanding that, whether cheer, dance, or everything else in between, how you have to model yourself around others.
Yeah. I, like we talked about on my episode, was so blessed with the opportunities that I had at Mississippi State, not just in athletics, but just in academics as well and student life. And so I think going back to like having parents that were such good leaders for me is I would talk to my mom all the time, and she would, every single day wake up and tell me, whatever you go, go be a light today, go be the best version of yourself. So just always having someone in my ear, even on my down days, to be like, God has blessed you with these opportunities. You would not be here because of him. Like, make sure that you speak the word of God wherever you go, whatever group you're in, and just be the best example of him. And I'm the first person to say, like, college is hard. And I think that's what I meant by like finding your faith, and your faith journey in college is so special and so unique to each and every person, because college is full of temptations. You're going to make mistakes, but that's why we serve a amazing God, because he does forgive us for our sins. So it's not, a piece of cake walk. Like, life is hard and you're going to be placed with challenges. But yeah, just making sure that I know the big man upstairs and continue to share that with each and every person. I know it's really hard to like see what game day is like from cheer and dance, because not a lot of people know as much. So having coaches at every single level, we had 2 coaches in my 4 years there, and they were phenomenal leaders, especially when it came to the gospel. We prayed so we practice every morning, and at the end of every practice, we don't take a knee, but we circle up. And it's something we literally get in a circle, we cross arm, we hook pinkies, and then we put our foot out. It's like a little dance move. But we close out every practice in prayer. And very similar to Amani, I started doing that my junior and senior year, because at that point I was an upperclassman, and I had phenomenal leaders on our team my first 2 years. So I started doing that, and I am the first person to say too, I was not confident in a prayer. I stutter, I say words, I get nervous, I talk too fast, but over time it just like becomes natural. And something as small as like closing us out in prayer is like something that meant so much to me, because you could take time, and if it was a bad practice, we prayed over that practice, and we prayed for each and every person, whether they had a test, if they had family issues that was going on outside of practice, or personal issues. Just being able to start our day like with a prayer, and just wishing, everyone, just giving them the peace and surrounding them with angels that they need for that day or that week. So that's kind of like what we would do on the day-to-day. And then every time we perform, whether it be for football or basketball or baseball, just whether we're in a tunnel at the hump or at the stadium, or if we're, in the stands waiting to go on at baseball games, just like huddling up and saying that prayer, just asking God for peace and to know our choreography and to put a layer of protection over us. And so that was I think I'm rambling at this point, but yeah,
No,
just
you're good. No, and I mean, you spoke on it. It's why we've tried to work with our kids because they say it's simply what if I do it wrong? And we explain that there isn't a such thing, right? And it was always explained well to me that it's you're simply talking to your father, so just be open. And but like you said, when you're surrounded by your peers who you care about how they see you, you don't want to mess up anything, right? Whether it's a dance move or a prayer. And so it's that intimidation factor. Please don't mess this up. But we have to get in a comfort zone, and I think that just comes more with doing it. And that's just, if we do what we're called to do and we are doing it more, we get more comfortable with doing it. But I'm just proud of you, just because my wife used to be a student leader in high school, and the cheerleaders and the gymnastics girls always just had so much trouble because um, for for what it is, like sexualized objects, the way that y'all get treated, and y'all really get the difficulties of knowing how you're looked at by some people. And I know that's got to be internally a struggle, because my wife has talked to so many. But like you said, just knowing that God created you to who you are, and that you're more than that and everything. And I love seeing to where you got today, because I want to go to that. Like, when you came on, you were talking about achieving your dreams, and now you're on the sideline for an NFL team for the Titans. So, just now that you're in that platform, you're in that realm, how much even bigger is it magnified? But also, talk about how awesome that opportunity is.
yeah. Well, here's how I'll start it. You can cut that part out of me saying no. Yes, I'm so happy that you bring that up, because I even think that is something that I'm struggling with now, and I never thought it would. But it's crazy, like for us, like as you get older, as you mature more, your body's constantly changing. And I think while dance and cheer is such an incredible sport, it does bring a lot of a lot of negativity, and it's very hard to be very hard on yourself.
Mhm.
And I think body image is like the biggest thing. It's what we talk about all the time on a day to day, in practice, outside of practice. It's hard because you look at a typical cheerleader or dancer, whether it's college or pro, the expectation of like what a uniform looks like, what you're going to be doing. A lot of our job is just as much off the field than it is on the field, being in the community, kind of being another face for whether it be the university or being for an organization. And so I think it's very easy to be very hard on yourself and to be very judgmental and to nitpick, oh, like I don't look good, or like this uniform's not flattering on me. And you're able to kind of like go into a tailwind of like just like so much negativity and being so hard on yourself, and just using that and turning it around. And it's like, no, God placed you here. Like God gave you this dream, God gave you this passion, like obviously this is where you're meant to be. Instead of like be like look at it in a negative light, like let's inspire the youth and younger girls and be like, you are like wonderfully and perfectly made. Like he made you just to be the way that you are. And so just kind of, like I said, being a constant, like just like talking about it and having, like I said, my team now, I loved my team in college. They were amazing all 4 years. I have an incredible team that I'm on now. It is such a positive experience so far. I tell everybody, because I think it's so easy because for dance and cheer to be very negative. It's very competitive. It's very, gruesome at times. And so just being at the next level, I never thought that I would be surrounded by people that are so encouraging and so uplifting and so inspiring. Like just I wake up every single day and I'm like, God, what can I do to be better? Like, what can I do more to be like my teammates, to be like my coach? Because they have just set such a high standard and are such good people that every day that I go to work now, which is crazy to say that I go there, like that's work for me,
Mhm.
just to be more like them and more, just be a better person.
Well, and I use you as an example with my daughter and her friends because um, there's always trends, and one of them was doing this bathing suit picture with this certain pose, and I was like on Instagram, I'm like, what are you doing? And and she's someone who has grown up in church and she reads her Bible and pray, but gets caught up in that. She's a freshman in college, and it's like we don't do that. And I bring that because I've told her to look at yours, or to stay with Mississippi State, Maddie Anderson or Becca Walken. That you don't have to do the bathing suit pictures to be liked by people. And I think that's where this false idea of what women are supposed to be like. But coming back to you, Amani, I wanted to talk about, because with her, the competition isn't the same as SEC baseball, right? You were talking about getting baseball to where you wanted to be with Mississippi State. How do you, when things don't turn out the way you want, when you go home in regionals, leaning into God and realizing that, his plan may not be your plan. Your plan was to win a national championship this year. And it's hard, right? You can do all the right things personally, read, pray, practice harder than anybody else, but that doesn't mean that you're going to win a national championship just because you did all the right things. So, how do you lean into him and understand that, his plan isn't necessarily yours?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things is to realize, like what you said, it's not our plan, it's his plan. It's already written. So there was a guy from my high school, Terrence Marshall, and his saying is meant to be, and it's already written, it's all in his hands. And I solely believe that it's already in his hands. And that, I know that was hard for us because we thought we were going to go, we thought we could win national championship, thought we had a national championship team, and the pitching and hitting was all there. And just realizing, hey, maybe it was just our turn to put them back on the scale for the younger guys, because we had a lot of younger guys out there, and I believe those younger guys are going to take the program and run with it and continue to do the right things because they have the right guys around the program. Like they still have like the Joe Powells and Aaron Downs around there, Dylan Cupp, who's amazing, and all really big in their faith, and I think they're going to do great with that and just continue to lead the guys through Christ.
Yeah, I mean, my host of my main show, Daniel, who coached in college baseball, always said when he left one place, it was all about leaving it better than when he got there. And I think that's what you're saying, Amani. Like you did, as well as your teammates, the best you could of leaving a foundational cornerstone for those guys to build on. And so I love that, just knowing that you may have not got all the way there, but you're a part of something bigger. And the last episode we actually did have Christian Scott on, who made it to Omaha twice, but did not win the national championship with Tennessee. They win the year after he's there, but he knows that he was a part of building that team, right? Like he may not have the ring, and so the same thing with you. If the guys were to go win next year, you may not get to flex the ring like the rest of them, but the hard work that you guys put in from not just on the field, but a leadership standpoint to get those guys to the next level. So I love that you just got the right mindset, and that's exactly why, you're one of the people that I wanted to have come on here. The last thing I wanted to get from both of y'all was, do you have, a certain verse, or do you have a certain book or anything that you use that you think would be good for people who are maybe watching and looking for inspiration within, their walk with Christ, or maybe even if, in the sports world?
Hannah, you can go first if you have.
Okay. One that has resonated with me my entire life is it's something kind of like my family has always said. It's been an important verse. So my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in 3rd grade. And so we had family friends that made obviously wristbands just to wear in honor of her, just to whenever you're in your day-to-day life, that you glance down at your wrist and it said her name and it said a Bible verse, just say a little prayer over her. And it was Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through him who gives me strength. That is such a solid verse that you can take with you each and every single day. Mm-hmm. And so that's one that's always been near and dear to my heart because, with the power of prayer, she's been cancer free ever since then. And for that, we're so blessed.
I'd be remiss if I didn't show you that I had a Philippians 4:13
wristband. See, it's And it kind of
Because it's like you said, it's a powerful verse. Sometimes, people, I think, play it out in the sense of they're not, they say it, or they may talk about it, but really understanding the power, the verse is literally saying you can do all things through him. And so, yeah, when it's not just tongue in cheek, but you actually believe it. So within the case of your mom, right, and beating that, and I'll tell you, Hannah, Paul Gervais, who came on the second episode we had, I went and visited him to watch him play minor league baseball. And Trey Morgan was supposed to sign the jersey for my mother, who's going through her 5th round of cancer, because Trey had signed her last ball. Well, Trey wasn't around, and God knew what he was doing by having Paul there. So Paul signed it for her. And I said, yeah, they're saying her cancer's terminal. And he looks at me and goes, it's not terminal. That's not a real thing. He goes, doctors don't decide, when we go, God does. Well, fast forward 3 weeks, and this was just last week. They feel like they're going to be able to get it all with the surgery, and that it's not terminal. So, and I had told Paul, and he was right. And so, with your mom, just understanding that, doctors or anybody else in between don't determine it. It's God. And if we have belief and we ride with him, sky's the limit, right?
Amen to that. The other one I was going to say is just one that I found in college. That was when I was second in college, is Isaiah 41:10. And it's, do not fear, for I am your God. Another one, it's just so powerful and just something so easily to live by. But prayers for your mom. I didn't know that. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, she's you were talking about 3rd grade. I mean, mine was 5th grade. She's been doing these bouts all the way since back then. But we realized in our family that it's a blessing, because when she originally had breast cancer, and it was stage 4, we did not think she was going to make it out, and here we are, 30 years later. And yes, she's got her 5th bout, but she's been able to see my kids, my sister's kids, and then my sister's oldest daughter even just had her first baby. So her even great grandkids, so things that she never thought. And so while it is sad that she's sick again, we know that we're blessed beyond measure that she's been able to have 30 years that we back then didn't think she would even have. So, she's a fighter, and we have no doubt, like we joke all the time, me and my sister, we think she's going to outlive both of us, right? Like you throw the word terminal out there, it's like, yeah, right. Like until that day comes, as of right now, I put her past me. But Amani, with you got any go-to verses?
Yeah, so I have 2, and the one I really stick with, it's on one of my gloves. I used to use, don't use it anymore because it's kind of worn down. It's Colossians 3:23. For whatever you do, work at it wholeheartedly for the Lord and not for men. And I just believe that one is kind of like what you said, when things don't go your way, like, who are you actually working for? Are you working for the Lord, or are you working for to prove, like, whether it's the scouts or whatever? Like, no, it's for the Lord, and then everything else will handle itself. And
Does
then
it benefit having it on your glove, like no different than wearing the wristband? Like, if something happens during a game, did you ever look down at your glove and just think about the verse that was on there?
Yeah, all the time, because baseball's not the easiest game out there, and you play fast, you tend to make some errors, and it's easy, like, to get caught up and, just like Hannah said earlier, like, just spiral down, and how quickly you do that, and just taking that moment, that deep breath, and looking down or whatever, just reminding yourself, okay, we got it, move on, next one, and inhale the confidence, and exhale the doubt, and just keep going. So, and then the next verse I like to do is one of my coaches when I was younger, playing travel ball with, for out of Madison, Mississippi, with the SBG Sox, now it's what they're called, is Matthew 23:12. For those who exalt themselves will be humble, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And I just believe that verse it reminds me every time, like, don't ever get too high, don't ever get too low. You got to kind of you got to ride that, like, that wave, that middle wave, because in life there's all battles you face, and you'll be like in the highs where you're doing all good, and in the lows where you're just fighting, and then in the in-betweens where you're just trying to stay like there level-headed the whole way through. And I think that's just vital and very important to everybody, especially in the
Yeah, I
game of
think that
baseball.
Yeah, I think that verse is money, not just in sports, but yeah, like you said, to anybody who's listening who might be in high school or fixing to go into college, or, you know, like I said, anywhere else in between, if you're in my stage of life. But yeah, being able to level that. But you can definitely use that verse in baseball. I could see why that would be a good one for you, because like you said, it's a game that has its ups and downs, and it can definitely humble you in a hurry.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate y'all. Don't want to keep y'all too much longer. Speaking of the mom, I got to take her to the doctor, but there's obviously a reason that I seek y'all two out. Everybody that we've had on so far in the first 4 episodes, it means clearly, you know, not that you need my validation. It means that you're doing something right, because I see y'all in that light of role models that I want my kids to look up to. I see the things that y'all do on the field. I see the things that y'all do on social media. And so just keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, I know y'all are in new stages of life right now, but keep thriving and modeling the way you do. And when things get hard, just remember the same scripture that you read today for others. And if y'all need anything along the way, you know, feel free to reach out.
We'll do it. Appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is Amani, Larry, and Hannah Stutts, everybody. That is it for part 4 of Athletes of Faith. We will see everyone back next week. I believe we have Madison Martin and Kaya Johnson, but I don't know. The devil throws in these plans, and I have to keep shifting around guests. So I don't know who it'll be, but hopefully we have athletes just like these two coming on sharing amazing stories. But with that, everyone have a blessed day, and we will see you next week.